Welcome to Coding the Cinema. Today I'm discussing my top 10 personal favorite found footage movies with a horror element. And I say a horror element because some of these are scarier than others, and I'll also include my personal score on a 1 to 10 scale of how scary the film was. But really, when I'm watching a found footage movie, I like to think to myself, how credible is it? And if it's not credible, can I play along with it? And does it make some interesting use of like a local legend or some kind of mythology or something that found footage works really well with uniquely? So without further ado, let me start with my number 10 pick. This is a 2018 film that doesn't sound too scary. It sounds kind of gentle. It's called Butterfly Kisses, like with your eyelids. And it's a difficult film to explain without going into heavy spoilers, so I'll say it this way. There are multiple filmographers who are studying this phenomenon, this local legend. And this legend roughly goes something like, again, talking around spoilers, there's a peeping Tom entity, ghost, demon, ghoul, completely fake. Who knows what it is? Could just be a tall tale. Whatever this peeping Tom is, in theory, some combination of you blinking, staring, whatever that is, can slowly cause you, if you look through this certain tunnel at a right time with these train tracks, it can slowly cause this being to come closer and closer, thus the kisses, until it eventually murders you. And the film even plays around with the idea of what the eye that sees peeping Tom, what that could even mean. And it's a really interesting found footage film about how do we validate that which is paranormal or extraordinary or difficult to explain. A whole lot of the film that's actually very interesting deals with that as well. And it has different directors with their take on the material. Sometimes a director might be filming another director's take, or a director might be looking at another filmmaker's old evidence. Some of the evidence, for example, in the beginning is found in an old shoebox. Student filmmakers, are they making something up? Is this real? It's an interesting, neat kind of concept, and I would give this thing on a scary meter only about a 4. There are a few good scares and they're more jump scares, but what's interesting is trying to find this peeping Tom with the characters as you go along. The main character that ends up among all these filmmakers we spend most of our time with, unfortunately, he's pretty annoying and aggressive, and that might actually be something that a lot of you like. If you have seen the film or do see the film, you kind of like that he is the way he is, but he alienates others around him and goes down this big rabbit hole with this material. But nonetheless, I think I enjoyed a lot of this film enough that I put it in my top 10, and it's a pretty good one. You should definitely see it if you haven't. Butterfly Kisses. Now, the most, for my number 9, probably the most divisive on this list, I did have Lake Mungo here, and this is my Second Sight Films copy. Really nice restoration of this. 16-year-old Alice Palmer tragically drowns while swimming in the local dam, and the days that follow, her grieving family begins to experience a series of strange and inexplicable events. They actually seek the help of a parapsychologist, a psychic, to try to find out more about Alice. Lake Mungo is one of those films that relies very heavily on you buying into the atmosphere and the vibe. For me, the first time watching it, it was just okay. But when I went back, and especially revisiting it on this copy, this is really a film that actually is better on the big screen. Sometimes I know you like to put those on a laptop, or I do, and put the headphones in. But this one really does benefit from that more cinematic experience. Going back and looking at it again, I really did feel such a sense of dread throughout, like something was always wrong. Nothing ever felt quite put together, and the whole world was kind of crashing down on this family. That having been said, like, there's a big question. Is this movie just kind of boring? Is it just a slow examination of this family dealing with grief and the grief of their daughter? It asks questions like, is this daughter even dead? Was she involved in activities she should not have been? Is there a ghost? Is there a premonition? Different things in the genre that are explored, but overall, as a character study and as a study of this family grieving, I think that part of the film is very strong. And some of the twists and turns and unexpected shape of the narrative I really appreciated. It's only about a 3 in terms of scary, because there's really only a few scary moments. You might even go as low as a 2. But like I said, if you think about this film as a kind of a creepy, eerie film about this family grieving, you'll probably like it. That's my number 9, Lake Mungo, with this terrific cover art on my particular copy. Now that was my number 9. My number 8, if I'm saying this right, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. This is about a crew of a horror web series, and they travel to a legendary abandoned asylum for a live broadcast. And a lot of this is kind of going to be relevant to people who enjoy watching or streaming Twitch or YouTube or those different things. And a lot of this is about what extent do we go to for fame? Will we go into a creepy abandoned place? Will we, break the law or things like that to get the next great shot? And these filmmakers certainly do, and they seem a little bit underprepared at times. How much of what they are doing is fake or real, and how much of the local legend here actually is real, because there's this idea that one of the rooms in the asylum is especially haunted. I love that chase of fame. I do think there's a tense sense of world building. I think there are enough quality scares in here for me to rate this thing a scary maybe 7 out of 10. I mean, there are some moments that are terrifying. There's some stuff that happens with like the mouth. If you've ever seen this film, earlier I was talking about butterfly kisses. There's some stuff that happens with the mouth of some of the characters that's really creepy. It's one of those films that's like a really solid horror movie that has a few great moments, I would say. But some people, this is like their number 1 or 2. I definitely recommend you watch it if, subtitles aren't a problem for you. I think of the subtitled movies, I think this one is a little bit easier to watch if you're not used to subtitles, because it's just like so visually compelling at times. But I really enjoy it. I can see myself watching this every year or every other year. So The Haunted Asylum here at number 8. Now, number 7 is a film that's also divisive, but I really love this movie. I don't think it's the best movie on this list, but when this movie hits, it really, when it clicks, it's one of the great horror films. It doesn't always click, but bear with me. My number 7 pick, Willow Creek. So a young couple find themselves face to face with something in Bigfoot country. And basically, this guy, he's looking for, his name's Jim in this, he's looking for evidence of Bigfoot, and he's going to go to the mountains in California near Willow Creek where there's this video evidence, and he's trying to see if he can also find Bigfoot. He's sort of drug along his girlfriend. And that part of the film, this couple and their interactions, and when they bicker or they disagree or they're trying to kind of map their lives out, that part to me I actually really like. It's just not like, there's a part of this film that's just not scary. It's like a slow build character study with these two characters. So if you don't like the two characters, Willow Creek won't even be in your top 20. But I think that they are a believable young couple who are trying to make a life together, sort of. And parts of their relationships I find very intriguing. However, when we get to the outdoors and they start camping and they start looking for this Bigfoot or these Bigfoot creatures, there's a tense scene, not an intense scene. Well, it is intense, but they are in a tent and they hear stuff outside of them. That's a good few minutes of footage, as good as anything in this entire genre. I think this is one that maybe worked well with some critics, better than some audiences. I know it's divisive, but I really like this. I really like the sort of Western vibe to it, because I'm a Western guy and I go on so many Western trips. But nonetheless, I think Willow Creek is a really cool film you should see, and it does have some cool stuff at the end, even if you don't like the rest of the movie. All right, number 6 on my list. By the way, I gave that scary 5. It's got some scary moments, but it's not. It's got some truly scary moments, but it's like the whole thing isn't as scary. So I'll give that a 5. Okay. My number 6 pick. As Above, So Below. The one you have to play along with quite a bit. It's definitely got a lot of supernatural stuff in there. But on the back, miles of twisting catacombs lie beneath the streets of Paris, the eternal home to countless souls. And basically, this group of adventurers, Scarlett, who is this smart, academic, well-researched young lady who is looking for like a greater secret underground that links to other secrets and different, like, I don't want to call it the Da Vinci Code, but, you know, she's looking for these different historical pieces the way someone might with something like mummies in Egypt. Her friend George, who is obviously still interested in her, who has some skills and language and so forth, and he ends up joining, and they have this really cool guide, local guide, which I think makes the movie better. His name Francois, and he has been to these catacombs, and he's kind of leading them illegally underground. And that part of the movie is really great, right? Like, they're in these creepy catacombs, and it's almost always at least a little bit tense because of that. And some of the scenes are really scary. Some of the things they see underground, not to spoil any of those, but there's some good scares in here, jump scares and not jump scares, to where I'd actually make this like as high as a 7. It is a little ridiculous. As Above, So Below is probably the most ridiculous on my list, but I really like it. Again, this is one of those, I liked it better on my second watch, and I could see this pretty much being a yearly watch, if nothing else for the intense and same world building. And there's this thing that they see underground. They see this body underground with like these candles and stuff. Ugh, creepy. I like it. I like it quite a bit. 7 scare factor. Now, a film that to me was a little less scary, but kind of scary in parts, and probably like maybe the most cinematic in a way of these, or the most well-created film, or the most original, is my number 5 pick. And this is Noroi the Curse, my umbrella copy. No matter how terrifying, I want the truth, says the filmmaker. Noroi the Curse. So there's this guy who has some experience with different documentaries, and he's exploring some seemingly unrelated paranormal incidents and some things with psychics and experiments to see if he can find a common link, and he kind of does, with an entity that if you read any description, they'll call it Kagutaba, I believe. And there is a lot, there's a lot of setup, there's just a lot of material in here that you might think, why are these kids, why is the filmmaker showing me parts of this TV show where these kids are seeing whether or not they're psychic or whatever. There's so much stuff in here that you might think, well, why is that there? Or what is this? Why is he looking at this kid and their mom? But if you hang with it and you kind of go with it as it develops, you start seeing all these pieces weave together. I think that because it's so much like a scientific process that he's undergoing, that it's almost a little bit more believable. It's not always ooh, every single moment I get this great paranormal, spectacle that jumps out on the screen to kind of grab you dramatically. But make no mistake about it, there are scares, especially a couple in the woods. There's this poor guy that literally wears tinfoil because his strong psychic abilities, they make it hard for him to interact with the world, and he ends up really a big piece of this. There's a great ritual where these folks try to deal with this demon from the past. You get to see a video of that, and it has a real scary, real cool ending that I really like. Noroi the Curse, 2005. I give it about a 6 on scary, but really strong film. Number 4 on my list. I used to have a DVD of this. I don't know where it is. This is 2007's REC, Rec, whatever you want to call it. A big 9 for me on the scares. This movie terrifies me every single time I watch it. It never fails. It is rough. This is about a television reporter and cameraman. They follow some firefighters and emergency workers into this apartment building. So this lady doesn't really realize she's about to get caught up in this big, scary situation. In fact, when she's walking around the firefighters, that's kind of creepy because it's this fire station at night, but she has no idea what she's stepping into. And as they go up this apartment and you see this sort of infection breakout, it's jump scares sometimes, yeah, but they go into to try to see this woman who should not be scary, and she definitely is. And I think it's the attic or the very upper floor. It is really scary. I've only found a set of the Blu-ray of the whole series, and I tried the second one and couldn't get into it because I didn't feel like I liked it as much. But I've watched Wreck at least like 6 or 7 times, and every single time it terrifies me. I love it. I love the action elements to it as well. I think there's a lot of just authentic energy in the cast, and you can tell that people are really scared. It is a phenomenal found footage horror picture at number 4, Wreck or Record with a scary of 9. Now, a film that's like a touch less scary, that's my number 3, but one of my real favorite worlds I've ever seen built in a movie, despite how rough around the edges this film is. I have been, and continue every time I see it, to be a bigger fan of Hell House, LLC, the 2015 film. And it's about a haunted house. Okay, so on October 8th, 2009, there's this haunted house that opens. You see someone's video of it that's gone online. And there's something happens, there's this fire, everybody leaves this haunted house. It's a haunted house attraction, right? So it's not like really supposed to be a haunted house, like just a made up scary place that these young adults have created. And these people go in, like I said, someone videotapes it, and something happens, like in the basement of this haunted hotel thing. And everybody runs out, and then there's like a fire, and then some people die. And a lot of the film is about newfound footage of what happened while all these different actors and creators were setting up the house. And so most of the film is us seeing the inside of the house and the creepy stuff in there. There are these clowns in this movie that are like just so scary, like creepiest clowns I've ever seen. And I'm looking right at my copy of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Scarier than that. I mean, that movie's kind of silly, but I love it. I mean, that movie's an 8 for me out of scaries. Like there's this one clown that's standing where he's not supposed to be, and there's like mannequin kind of stuff and this creepy piano, and there's this dude that like is on his mattress, and you see what he doesn't know is behind him. It is a real scary movie with a really cool ending, and I like how it blends different camera angles and different people who shoot different scenes, and it's just a really fun, great haunted house time. And I love how arrogant the young people are who are like coming in and like setting up this house, and they're kind of financially obligated to like finish what they start despite some warning signs. So like that's pretty believable. And it's just a really cool movie. One I have really enjoyed over time. Okay. My number 2. This is a movie that is going to be, basically this is either just the dumbest thing you've ever seen, or you're truly scared by it. And I'm scared by it because I play along with it. You have to play along with horror movies or they don't work. Paranormal Activity, number 2. One of the very first, right, that really hammered home that isolation scare, that I'm not safe in my own house kind of scare, that supernatural scare. And for me, it is a 9. Because I play along that there's really a demon, and it's really chasing these people. So this couple lives in this apartment, and they're trying to deal with a long time paranormal, possibly demonic force that's been haunting this girl. And if you can buy into that and believe that, then all the scares work really well. But what I have always liked about this movie is that the boyfriend is really antagonistic, and he's immature, and he doesn't make anything better. And the negative energy of the relationship that he causes, I think his name is Mika, like makes the whole situation worse. And I think the demon feeds into that. And if you can believe that it's actually there with them, I mean, this is an isolating, menacing presence. A psychic or whatever comes in, and like he's scared of it. The way that they just cannot seem to get out of that apartment and are stuck in this loop, it's almost like a metaphor for a bad relationship that creates more fear, if that makes sense to me anyway, whenever I watch it. And I've just always found it to be one of the scariest, and I really like it. You'll have to let me know if you're a lover or a hater of Paranormal Activity. And my number one, of course, The Blair Witch Project. I've got my steelbook here. It's actually got the other Blair Witch, which I haven't watched, but I really like this. Really like this version. So I should say that I have a bias for this because the first time I watched part of it on cable TV, I watched like 30 minutes. I didn't even know what it was about, and then I immediately went for a hike, and like I saw the little witchy things in the woods, like thought I did, you know, it was kind of playing tricks on me. And so I think for that reason, it's always kind of held a special place in my heart. But if you haven't ever watched the Blair Witch Project, the three students, filmmakers, they go in the woods in this place in Maryland to shoot a documentary, and this is their found footage. I like that the setup gives you little pieces from the townspeople about what this Blair Witch might be, and you get just enough exposition from different stories from people that you can kind of have an idea of what's going on in the woods as they start to get lost. And you can draw your own conclusions. If it added like 10 more minutes or took away 10 minutes of that, I think it would either be too much or too little, and I love that sweet spot that you get. And the movie's also a lot scarier if you've ever been actually lost in the woods, which I have a couple of times. And then that sense of being truly terrified, being lost in the woods, adds a lot. Almost in the same way that, like, if you're claustrophobic and you watch The Descent, that, you know, that cave, or if you've ever been in a cave, that works better. So for me, that's why it's one of the scariest. And it's just one of the best comfort horror movies to me because I've seen it so many times and I just, like, it's just a classic. I got to watch it every year. What can I say? I love it. Who doesn't love the Blair Witch Project? Probably a lot of people. Now, those are my top 10. Tell me, what are yours? What did I miss? What did you want in there that I didn't put in there? What do you agree or disagree with? If you liked the video today, click that thumbs up button for me and subscribe to Cody in the Cinema.